Hello, dear foodie friends, and welcome to Kitchen Chat. I'm your host, Margaret McSweeney, and I'm so glad you're joining me here in the award-winning Viking and La Cornue showroom here with my co-host, Chef Jamie Larita, who's also brand ambassador of Viking, and we are so excited about today's show. We are celebrating all things culinary in Chicago, and we are so honored to be featuring a very special guest who needs no introduction, the mayor of Chicago, Rahm Emanuel. Welcome to Kitchen Chat.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.
I have to tell you, Mr. Mayor, this is an exciting day for us. We love our city, and we love what you've done for our city.
Thank you.
So having you here in our new Viking showroom is very special. And speaking of Chicago, you know, Chicago being a culinary destination that it is, let's talk about your integral role in, you know, what you've done to make Chicago this great food city.
I ate.
You ate?
Every night, 3 meals a day. And then I didn't do anything. I actually all the credit goes to the chefs and the creative artists that do that, and then two, we have a great town and community of foodies.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think if I did anything, it would be in bringing the James Beard and bringing a light, a notoriety, an attention, and then all the artists in Chicago created, I think, obviously the identity that last year Gourmet called Chicago the culinary capital of America.
Exactly.
I think, and it continues. I think Jet Set just came out. It's an online publication. 10 places you have to see in the world, and the #1 was Chicago, and they rated. And one of the reasons was all the culinary creativity that's going on. So that has led to an explosion of restaurants and just the whole scene in Chicago. And I got to be honest, I used to think people would come in for theater or whatever. I did not know there was culinary travel. I had no idea, but now I'm claiming credit for inventing it.
Yeah, you should take credit for that.
Well, that's the thing that mayors do. We actually know how to do that. When we see a parade, we get in front of it.
Okay, I like that.
Okay.
I like that. So being a chef myself and knowing all of these amazing chefs, it's more of I would say it's more of a family. You know, and there's not a lot of sibling rivalry when it comes to the chefs here in Chicago. We all seem to support each other, and that's the one thing when you go to a lot of these foodie events that happen in Chicago. I've seen you at so many of them, and I think that the difference in Chicago all the way around, you know, I travel with lots of rock stars and celebrities, everybody from, you know, Madonna on down throughout the world, and every single time, no kidding, every single time an artist has come through Chicago, they've said that the audience has cheered louder, the audiences have been better, and has given them a lot more than any other city. What do you think that is?
Well, you know, it's funny you say. So I would say, I actually think our culinary people, like our theater, like our music, there's a competitiveness, but there's a sense of community.
Right.
And it's okay to be competitive, but there is a sense. One of the great things about Chicago, it's a very big city with a small town feel. Two, if you fail, there's people around to support you. You're out, you failed in New York on a restaurant, you're dead. And there's no second act in New York. Chicago, there's a second act because there are people help you get back up. And I think that's important. And I think that people, you know, being that second city and having that kind of rivalry with New York, helps people when you, I'll give it in another art form, in music. You talk to artists who all perform at Lollapalooza, they said there's no better place, or any of the clubs, no better place to perform because of the energy of the public, the energy of the people, and there's a real sense of that experience that's intimate, and that's different.
Yeah, it's true, and I think that has a lot to do with the reason why I live here. I'm a transplant from New Jersey for many, many years. I've been in Chicago 25 years now.
Thank God you lost that accent.
I know, I worked really, really hard at it, guys.
I want to compliment you
You
on
want
the
to talk about
progress
it?
you're making.
You want to talk about it, Mayor? I love the floral aspect of Chicago. When I tell people about Chicago and coming to Chicago, two things they talk about. They talk about the lake being so blue. They don't expect that. And then how botanical we are.
I'm going to tell you, so when we had a NATO conference here, it was the largest NATO gathering in the history of all of NATO. So they had 62 heads of state, 62 foreign ministers, 62 defense ministers. We had it arranged through the FAA. I don't think I've ever told this story, but they flew into the city and we had it all come over the lake. Because when you say, oh, there's a lake, But until you see Lake Michigan, you don't really grasp the breadth of this. And so they could see the city, and first this God-given gift called Lake Michigan, and then this man-made gift called Chicago skyline. And they're adjacent to each other. And to the person, Chancellor Merkel, at that point Prime Minister Cameron from England, Prime Minister Rutte from Netherlands, all told Obama that they were like in awe of the city, and they were shocked, and both the lake and the skyline and what this jewel that rises up here in the prairie.
Yeah, and I'm glad it's a little bit of, I don't know, sometimes it feels like a secret, right? These people come to Chicago, it's such a great big city, and yet people visit here, but the ones that haven't don't realize that.
No, I mean, a lot of tourists in the world, because, you know, they're New York and fly to LA,
Right,
Miami,
exactly.
fly to San Francisco, whatever. And when they do come, they the good news is that they fall in love with it and bring other people with them.
Right.
And they enjoy the food. And one thing a lot of people might not realize too is that Chicago is considered one of the world's top urban farming
Yes.
cities. And you have had a real impact in encouraging that. And it's so great that Chicagoans can raise bees, fish, chickens, and
Yeah,
also
we got a
some
couple of
urban
people down the
gardens.
block that do that. I'm like, no, I'm joking. Yeah. But no, so it's again, when I became mayor, there were 2 acres of urban farmland. There was Erica's father, who has one of the bigger farms in the cities. Milwaukee actually had the best model. So we went up, took everything they did, replicated it. I think we're at 24 acres now. That's under what's called urban farm. And we had the first, I don't think we're the last, but about 4 years ago, we had the first urban farm that got all organic and natural label from the FDA, from USDA. And that is a significant transformation. Then there's a lot of other companies that come to support urban farms, meaning if you're going to do all types of things of growing fish, you're going to do winter kind of growing, that you have to assemble things that are for that. That's really been helpful. And one of the things I've done with it, and this is with Erica, is we now have 4 retrofitted CTA buses that have designated routes that go in food deserts selling fresh fruits and vegetables. So they're mobile, think of them as good humor trucks, but just for fresh fruits and vegetables in former food deserts. So people have access to fresh fruits and vegetables that's organically grown in the city of Chicago.
That's amazing.
I love that,
Yeah.
and I loved your Twitter feed on that. I saw a picture of you on one of the.
Well, at least somebody's following that Twitter feed. I want to thank you for that. The other thing,
Twitter's big these days.
Yeah. When I became mayor, 450,000 people in the city lived in what was then called, or not then, still is, called a food desert. And through Whole Foods in Englewood, Mariano's in Bronzeville, Jewel in Woodlawn, blah, 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 blah. We've actually cut that down somewhere around 200,000 people,
Wow.
depending on how people data. And I say compliment, we've put farmers markets in places that never had it, in schools. We have now, with another member of the Musk family, 200 schools will have growing learning farms. They grow fresh fruits and vegetables at the school, and kids learn about that access. And then what we've done with urban farms, all kind of a comprehensive, I think, approach to make sure that every family has access, to fresh fruits and vegetables. So within a mile of our home in Ravenswood, there's 7 grocery stores. There are people that have to travel multiple miles to find a single grocery store, and I don't think that's right. And there's a lot of education that has to come with it, but the urban farms is part of that effort of reducing food deserts in the city, let alone the access to fresh fruits and vegetables.
And Mayor, how do you feel about healthy eating? You seem like you have great skin, you've got clear eyes. That says, I'm dissecting you as you speak.
Oh my God.
I'm looking at you. How do you feel? How do you eat as a person?
Well,
I mean, you seem to be very passionate about.
well, first of all, this is, I actually think eating is healthcare.
It is.
And so, you don't really, anyway, the 6 most costly illnesses are all things that we can control. Smoking, weight, diet, heart, blood pressure, etc. And if you change your diet, it doesn't solve all of them, but you change your behavior, you can do that. So I try to eat healthy. I'm very disciplined about eating healthy until I am not disciplined about eating healthy. We have in our backyard, we have a massive garden from like 3 different types of kale. It's a lot of eggplant. You want eggplant? I got eggplant for you.
I need some eggplant.
You want zucchini? Please, anything to stop. And then Amy's
I'll
like,
take it.
yeah. So anyway, so I do try to eat very, very healthy.
Do you exercise?
I'm neurotic about exercise. I swim 3 times a week, a mile.
Wow.
3 times a week yoga. Twice a week I do aerobic, and 3 times a week I do weightlifting.
Wow.
So it's not wow. It's a sickness.
It's an addiction.
It's a sickness.
Yeah, I have a sickness too when it
Yeah.
comes to food.
So-
What's your favorite yoga pose?
No, well, pigeon. Because I used to dance ballet, and I'm very limber, and so and that keeps it from getting arthritic.
Yes,
So
it's very important.
we gotten off of food. Let's get back to food.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
We're wandering
let's
through
go
Rahm's
on.
youth, and
You
that's not a
had,
good
me
idea.
on ballet.
Yeah, that's not a very good idea. Rahm's youth is not a good idea.
Let's go on a restaurant tour here
Oh.
in Chicago. So where would you go for breakfast?
So my daughter was in the middle one was in the state was working this summer here. We made a effort. We were going to try a number of different breakfast places for the best oatmeal place in the city. Ooh. And the Bryn Mawr Cafe is, in my view, it's about I think it's like 2400 West Bryn Mawr. Mm-hmm. Best oatmeal in the city of Chicago.
What makes it good? Tell me the difference
They
between
do
good and bad.
they bake it. It's not runny. I hate runny oatmeal.
Right. I agree.
Fresh fruits and vegetables. Fresh fruits, berries.
You can
and
also do
strawberry.
vegetables on it.
No, you can't.
You can.
No.
I'm going to show you.
You can. It's not happening
I'm
on
gonna do
mine.
it. I'm doing
no.
it. Go,
You
go.
do it on yours. You're not coming over
Mayor.
for Rosh Hashanah dinner. Bryn Mawr. On the other hand, if I was getting so let me do it by meal. There's Over Easy, which is a great breakfast place. There's bacon and eggs, always good for a Jewish kid. Bacon and eggs, telling the rabbi that. Bryn Mawr is another great place. I could also go 10 great places for coffee. Then I'll go right to the evening because it's too much of lunch is in and around downtown. I think Parachute is a great restaurant.
Parachute.
Sky, I did the opening for them. I think that's a great restaurant. I think what's happening in Pilsen is unbelievable.
Pilsen's hot.
I would bask.
Pilsen's hot right
I can't remember the Vietnamese restaurant. Jesus is it? Sky is it? In Pilsen. So I feel bad now that there's obviously other restaurants that are. And chefs that I've tried that I'm not going to remember their name, and that's a horrible thing to do once you start that. Mm-hmm. But I would just say, I love fish. Mm-hmm. That's anybody that can make great fish.
You're talking to me.
Okay. And then as a Jewish home, you always do the Jewish meal on Sunday, Chinese. That's a mandatory.
It's so true.
So you always have to do that. Every Jewish meal on Sunday is Chinese or Thai. You definitely go over the Pacific. So anyway, I love eating out.
Good. And do you ever splurge for dessert? And where is your favorite?
That's a problem because I'm not allowed to get free meals. Otherwise, it becomes an ethical issue from an inspector general. So all the people I go to always offer me desserts, and I try to take desserts off. And then on the other hand, if somebody sticks chocolate in front of me, I'm like, okay. My problem is if you stick tiramisu in front of me. I love tiramisu. The other thing is, so my birthday comes right after Thanksgiving by day. I love pecan pie. Beyond, that's a weakness, and then anything dark chocolate.
I like the real dark, so I like 85%, 90% dark, and I put it in my cabinet above, like where I think I can't reach it, but just where I can reach it. And usually around 3 o'clock in the
there's
morning.
a doctor that can help you on this, okay?
Please help me. Please help me.
It's covered by Blue Cross and Blue Shield,
Is it?
okay? Yeah.
Thank goodness.
You don't have to worry about it.
No, I don't want to be healed. Because what I do is I get up in the middle of the night.
Really?
Yeah. And I have
Not
to have
after a
piece.
meal?
No.
Well, that's...
It's a middle of the night thing. I'm weird.
You would wake up and go back into the kitchen to get dark chocolate?
Yes. And that's the only thing I do. I'll get up and...
Why don't we switch this interview? We'll start asking some questions.
Let's go.
There's a lot
Here
to
we go.
learn here.
There we go. We've got a lot to discover. You don't want to go there. You don't want to. Don't open this can.
I'm so curious, what is your favorite taste memory as a child?
That's a great question.
And this is, I don't think anybody on the show is looking it up. Okay, so when I was growing up, my dad's from Israel. And 2 days after the '67 war, we went to Israel. And we were there the whole summer of '67, the whole summer of '68, the whole summer of '69, '70, '71, and '73. So my formative childhood years are in Israel. And I would say both taste and smell, because I'm not sure in tasting you can separate it. And it's going through Jerusalem in the market and eating both falafel and the desserts that the Middle Eastern, Palestinian, and Israelis and Arab and Israelis make. And that whole experience of if I could spend my whole life, it'd be going through the shuk in Middle East, Damascus, which I've been, Jerusalem, etc. I think that smell, that whole experience and the food there that's the most memorable taste.
So right. I was just in Jerusalem not too long ago, and I know that food smell you speak of. I am Italian, so I had that. It's a really interesting smell memory. You know, you have taste
Don't you think
memory.
that? Don't you think smell
The smell of meatballs, like my grandmother frying meatballs in the morning would get me out of bed. You know, it would get me out of bed.
She didn't put it on a high shelf, so at the middle of the night that you had to get it or something like that.
She was only 4'8". I love that you brought up taste memory and food memory. I mean, these are the things as a child, and this is why I think it's so important to inspire kids. I know there's lots of great organizations here in Chicago, like Common Threads is one of them, that inspires children to learn how to cook. And I think that if you can inspire a child and teach them about how important food is from an early age, they definitely would have the chance to have a more impactful adulthood. So being the mayor of Chicago and talking about ingredients, what ingredients would you, leave behind as the mayor, doing an incredible job here in Chicago as far as I'm concerned? What ingredients would you leave behind for the next mayor that would be a recipe for success?
We have a tradition. Every mayor leaves a little note for the next mayor in the drawer.
Oh, really?
It's actually true also about presidents. So I'll leave my note to my successor.
Okay.
It won't be the recipe part, but it will be to wish them well with this jewel, and it is a jewel called Chicago. I will just, as I've said this before about politics, I talk to my son a lot about it, and my daughters, but he's most interested in it. And part of success, but also part of effectiveness is, especially if you're a chief executive, you have to be idealistic enough to know why you're doing what you're doing, and then ruthless enough to get it done. If you go back and look at history, it's not like Roosevelt was just a great leader. He was also a tough SOB that knew how to get what he needed done. So that was true about Lincoln. It was true about Kennedy. And so I would say, in the thick and thin and the to and froing, you got to have a North Star that gives nourishment, because you're going to get knocked down a lot. And you got to know why you're doing what you're doing and what the purpose is of government and serving and public service. And then tough enough, I shouldn't say probably ruthless, but tough enough and determined enough to see it through. And that's the route to success. And if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, you're just going to run around in circles and without a direction. And if all you are is idealistic enough, you're not going to get anything done. So that would be, and then after that, you'll have your agenda, and that will be, there's no kind of recipe for how do you do this versus how do you do that. I used to say I once told President Clinton, it was right, I said that if we knew in the first year of the first term what we knew by the first year of the second term, we would be geniuses.
Right.
And the truth is, a mayor, like other chief executives, you have to have judgment, character, and the capacity to learn.
Those are great ingredients.
And if you don't have the capacity to learn, you never know. I learned a ton in this job.
Of course.
And if you don't know, if you don't have the capacity to learn, you're never going to be effective and successful. And if you don't have judgment, because nothing walks in, this is right and this is wrong. They don't need you for that. The computer can do that. They need you to look at this, weigh equities, look at it from different angles, and have a judgment call of what's right and what you can afford to do, what you can't afford to do, or only do a little on this. And that's judgment, and then the character to know what's right, and the capacity when you make a mistake to learn from it and be honest with yourself.
I love that answer. Thank you so much for that. That was brilliant. And I
Brilliant?
I love
it.
it.
I'm gonna give you, can you have him call my wife?
Yes.
I have not,
She just texted me.
yeah,
She just texted me.
she's not into that.
She said, call him brilliant. He'll like that.
Actually, I have to actually make it home because tonight is our Sabbath dinner, and I need to be conscious of my time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I know charity is another important part of your ingredient, and we wanted to recognize and acknowledge your huge heart for charity. I'd like to call up the CEO of Wings, Rebecca Darr, along with Darcy Bretz, who is the Director of Corporate Communications at Middleby, as well as Mark Saran, who's a group president at Middleby.
Wow.
So I know Rebecca has something very special to share.
So, Mayor.
Did you just swing me around like I
I
was
did just swing you around to
to
force you to look at me whether you want to or not. But she here. So, this is where your worlds collide.
Okay.
So, the Wings Metro Safe House that you helped me build, which
Yeah.
we call your house,
Okay.
needed a stove, oven, went out about a month ago. Viking showed up with less than 24 hours with said oven and stove. So Chef Jamie has his own special chocolate chip cookie recipe. So the children at your house, Wings Metro, baked you these cookies with love.
Oh my God, that is so thoughtful.
So
All right, now you're getting me teary-eyed, so I'm not doing that. Okay.
Come on.
I told them that is what we do,
yeah.
right? So you can just say that and take it home if you want. You can-
Why would I share it with other people when I can have it? No. That is, first of all,
Anyway, the children really enjoyed.
that is so nice. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I
That-
love this. This
Oh, I know.
is just so special, your ingredient with.
Well, let me just say this. Wings is one of the important things that I've done as mayor. I'll just leave it there. Otherwise, I'll get teary-eyed. I don't want to get teary-eyed. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for
No,
being
Grace, you can't have these
on
cookies.
Kitchen Chat. And thank you, dear foodie friends, and thank you, live studio audience, for being part of the special celebration of all things culinary in Chicago. I hope you'll continue to tune in for the fun, and always remember to take a moment and savor the day.